I love media. And I know how cheesy that sounds. Of course, everyone likes music, albums, movies, TV shows, and video games. That's not it. I'm talking about the genuine love I have to feel and experience something another human mind has created. The feeling of diving into an album and listening to the sounds and lyrics another person has written. Or the feeling of playing a story-rich game that you know someone, or in most cases, a group of people worked sleepless nights to code some pixels together that collectively makes the player feel something. On the rare occasions you find some stuff that sticks out to you the most, and you get sucked into the lore of certain games or albums. That's how you get your favorite or your top 10 lists. A select few pieces of media that you probably will never forget experiencing because of the impact it left on you. Although you rather get Alzheimer's so you can experience that certain piece of media again. In terms of video games, Bloodborne was one of those top 10 games for me that left an everlasting impression. The game released in 2015 by this little indie studio. I know if you've ever heard of them. They're kinda small and underground, called Fromsoftware. The concept of the story, the characters, the gothic aesthetic of the game, and basically every single thing about this game is just perfect. Miyazaki's magnum opus in my opinion. A true masterpiece of a game. And in terms of albums, Deathconsciousness by Have a Nice Life, a band consisting of Dan Barrett and Tim Mukogo, was one of those albums that stuck with me the moment I finished listening to it. The atmosphere, the melancholy feeling each track gives, the meshed together yet loud instrumentals on the album, and the heart-wrenching lyrics that get more stuck in your head every time you listen. And a few months ago, when I was listening to the big gloom, it hit me. Holy shit, these two are connected. I'm not saying this is some dark side of the moon and Wizard of Oz situation that if you play the album and the movie together, it syncs up perfectly or some bullshit like that. No, but I genuinely think Miyazaki or the crew responsible for Bloodborne working at Fromsoftware were somewhat inspired by the album Deathconsciousness. And I don't think they even tried to hide it. I'm surprised more people are not talking about it, and I find it crazy how this isn't widely discussed, since both of these pieces of media have their own cult following. The only mention of this I could find was this post made on Reddit 2 years ago on r/Have a Nice Life. Shout out to user D7Mooney69 for spotting the connection. Now let me get into it. Let's talk about basics. Deathconsciousness came out in 2008, approximately 7 years before Bloodborne's release date, and Bloodborne started its development in 2012. I think somewhere between 2008 and 2012, either Miyazaki or someone in Fromsoftware got the basic ideas for Bloodborne's concepts and general aesthetics after hearing that album. You can easily see this when you get a feel for the themes of both of these properties. Let's do a quick rundown. Spoiler warning for both the game and the album. Bloodborne, in the simplest way, tells the story of the hunter, woken up in the hopeless city of Yharnam. Everyone in the city is afflicted with a disease which transforms them into beasts. You make your way through the game by defeating enemies and sometimes gods, which are called the Great Ones, to discover the truth behind the disease and the state of the world. The world is dark and dirty. You see how not even a hint of happiness can be seen in Yharnam. Afterwards, the hunter encounters Gehrman in the hunter's dream, an old man that tries to guide the hunter to find beasts and sets the hunter in his path. Now let's do a quick rundown of Deathconsciousness. The album does not have a general story. Some tracks do connect, but the overall concept of the album is tied to the idea of nihilism, the idea that life is meaningless, and moral principles are a social construct that have no real value. The album dives deep into themes of death and the cruelty of the human nature. Every song on the album has this sense of grief and apocalypse in both the instrumental or the lyrics. Now that you know the general themes of both the game and the album, I have a question. Do you know what the story of the first track of the album, Bloodhail, is after the instrumental intro? It's about a character named the Hunter who kills gods. Bloodhail tells the story of someone called the Hunter, careless about what's going on around, and a person who feels no remorse. He is on a mission to kill God. I feel the top of the roof come off, kill everybody there, and I'm watching all the stars burn out, trying to pretend that I care. But I didn't, and no one ever does, and no one ever will. Just like the hunter in Bloodborne that feels no remorse killing every yarn and beasts that stay in his way, although they were once human. They both know the world that they live in is rotten and hopeless, a world that even with all the best efforts, it might not be saved. The hunter feels hopeless, feeling like even he cannot save this worthless world. Can't you see? It's all thrown out of my hands. But even with the extreme feeling of emptiness, the hunter still tries their best. They don't want to accept the state of the world. But I just don't, and I just don't accept this, and I just don't accept this at all. The hunter in the song reaches a stairway made out of human arms and legs that reach up to the god, who is the cause of all their suffering. He climbs the stairs that reaches the god to kill him. Faces, sweaty arms and legs, what a glorious set of stairs we make. The same way how in Bloodborne there have been multiple hunters who try to achieve this goal, but failed, and you use their experience, and you often even use them to your own benefits. You encounter other hunters in the game as NPC mini-bosses, a metaphorical stairway made out of their corpses to face the biggest challenge, which is God in this case. In the song, the hunter reaches the god, and starts firing hundreds of arrows which result in the death of this god. And the iconic chant of the people begins. I love this part so much. The chant of the people saying, "Thank God that's over," over and over again. The hunter didn't only kill God, he took his place as well. This is extremely similar and downright the same when it comes to Bloodborne. The hunter's last enemy is Gehrman, the first hunter. In the canon ending, you can kill him and end his life, but this will cause you to replace him, forever stuck in the hunter's dream, just like he was. This also works even better with the other Bloodborne ending. An alternate ending is killing moon presence, which is a great one, and in the context of the game is basically a god. He is made out of human flesh and bones. He is the god that created the hunter's dream in the first place, and he rules over it. By killing moon presence, you turn into a great one yourself, which in the simplest terms means you become a god yourself. This song should be evident enough about the connection between these two, but it doesn't stop there. Also, Bloodhail, Bloodborne, coincident? The fourth track, Hunter, is from the perspective of the god that was slain by the hunter. Hunter, I'm laid out on the forest floor, arrows in my back and sides, down among the leaves and stones. You can wear my skin as armor, you can eat my flesh and bones. Leave nothing that is needed, all I have is yours. The god came to accept his death and is telling the hunter that the victory is yours. The connection here is obvious with how the game works and how after defeating every god, you get their echoes, or in other terms, souls. This also ties in with the fact that by killing Gehrman, you get his destiny and Hunter's dream becomes yours. It can also tie in with the fact that in the game's third ending, after killing Moon Presence, you become a great one yourself. And I'll give myself up to your sharpened edges. I no longer cling to life. Yes, I'm finally giving in. Teeth and hate end our relationship. Of course it's sad. But that's the way it is. Your violence always wins the day. Yes, your violence wins. This part ties in well with the fact that in the world of Bloodborne, violence is the only way. The fact that all three possible endings of the game end with either Gehrman killing the hunter killing Gehrman, or the hunter killing the Moon Presence. The only answer is violence, and the hunter plays a big part in the continuation of the violence. The hunter does us all a great service, and we've done so much to deserve it. Both of these tracks tell a clear connected tale, and the story is almost the same as the overall story of Bloodborne. It might be a coincidence, but I believe at least these two tracks somewhat inspired the overall story of the game. Now, it might be a reach, but I have more connections. Let's talk about the other tracks. The track Big Gloom is from the perspective of a depressed suicidal man. contemplating if he should commit suicide. But I think it's much more than that. I think this song is from the perspective of German stuck in the hunter's dream. My arms, my legs are wood. Unconscious trees with roots deep in the ground. We'll all be out. To me, German being crippled and him stuck sitting in a wheelchair the whole game is connected to the line, my arms and my legs are wood. He's also stuck in the hunter's dream, and there is also a lot of trees in the hunter's dream, which can be a hint to the line, unconscious trees with roots deep in the ground. And he's hopeful that he'll get out of this dream one day. An ocean ring with tile could also be a hint to the fact that the hunter's dream is an island in what seems to be an endless ocean or a cloud field. The repetition of please, please release me. German is stuck in the dream and is begging someone to release him from this nightmare. He wants the hunter to kill him so he can finally be released. Can you hear my faintest breath? Is it amplified? The number that I've become will put you inside. I've got a message that I must relay. No, I can't delay it one more day. It is desperate. Can you relate? Can you please, please relate? I am trapped. I might be reaching, but to me this is totally German begging the hunter to kill him. He says he has a message he must relay, and I think that message is telling the hunter the truth about the cycle of Bloodborne. The fact that if the hunter kills him, he'll be trapped just like German was. German is asking the hunter to relate and understand his situation, and he's asking for forgiveness. Please relate. I am trapped. The big gloom to me is the cries of German whenever we don't look at him, whenever we see him sitting peacefully in the hunter's dream, with every second of his life being stuck in an endless and hopeless island. Now let's talk about the outro track, Earthmover. Certainly one of my favorite tracks on the album. The story of this song is about a legion of golems roaming the earth and destroying everything they see in their paths. As time moves forward, the golems get tired of this restless cycle. All they can do is destroy, and they also cannot die. Forever immortal, without purpose, all they want from the world is to die. An army of the golems is stalking, now, the earth's lands, eating all reality, producing only dust and sand. Nothing hurts them. Nothing gets under their stone skin, and when their earthen mouths will open up, and just what words will come out but, we wish we were dead. The way I interpret this song is that this track is sung from the perspective of old blood-drunk hunters. By the game's description, hunters who go drunk with blood are said to be taken by the nightmare, destined to wander forever, engaged in an endless hunt. It is a fate that no hunter can escape. Basically, they are in an ever-ending nightmare, where their hunt never stops. They only kill and destroy, but they can only wish for this loop to come to a stop. The most strong similarities end there, but here are some more stuff and connections I wanted to point out. My favorite track from the album, Waiting for Metal Records to Come in the Mail, is fundamentally about greed and how people exploit other people for money. But the way I see it, it could also be a ballad of people of Yharnam, while they experience the grim events of the story. You drop that pitch black pall over us, one and all, again, to propel your national machines, giving us all the disease, but not the vaccine. It is believed in the game that the people responsible for the disease in Yharnam were the healing church. They believe that medicine is not the means of treatment, but rather a method for research, and that some knowledge can only be obtained by exposing oneself to sickness. So they literally exploited the people of Yharnam just for their own goals. I see this as an almost perfect connection to the song themes. 1,000 tiny lives disappear into the black stretch. And I guess I thought I'd feel something, but I didn't. Yes, that's a myth. People of Yharnam are used to the sickness and no longer have any human remorse for the people suffering. It has turned into somewhat of a routine for them to watch the humans in their city turn into beasts and die. I would give anything for a cool glass of water without this poisonous oil. I interpret this as them giving anything to get their old Yarnum back, a Yarnum without disease. Last but not least, it's time to talk about Holy Fucking Shit 40,000. Possibly the most famous song from this album, and a song infamous for the fact that it can be interpreted in so many ways. Some say it's about suicide, or it's about determinism, or it's about the Terminator. Some say the 40,000 in title references the annual suicide rates in the US. And some say it's a reference to Warhammer 40,000. That's the beauty of music. A single song can be interpreted in so many different ways. But I think this song is from the perspective of the hunter, coming to terms with his own violence tendencies and his own purpose in the world of Bloodborne. Everything you do is planned out in advance, and the stars push their dark wills down on you, and wolves all tear themselves apart, better in packs. It's just a function that we will have to work on through. The hunter has come to the realization that his purpose in the story is planned out. The cycle of defeating Gehrman and waiting for someone else to take his place and so on. He understands that in order to set things straight, he has to commit violence even if he doesn't want to. And I've replaced my heart with metal parts, and I'm working out just fine, but I can't get it to start. We're machines that breathe and weep and look really good, trained to kill. The hunter has thrown out his feelings of remorse for his victims. As he says, he replaced his heart with metal parts. He is now symbolically a machine that is trained to kill, and he acknowledges that his lifestyle works for him, because by only being a cold-blooded killer, he can survive in this world. Send me back in time, and I'll bring us back in line. Just tell me whose mother I have to kill. I'm fine like I've always been, and I don't remember when my conscience wasn't acting up again. These lines show us how much the hunter is determined to achieve his goals no matter what. He is completely okay with going back in time and killing someone's mother, which I interpret as killing a child when they were just born, in order to alter the future, which to me is extremely similar with what happens at the last leg of Bloodborne. The boss fight, Mergo's Red Nurse, is a nurse protecting an infant child in a crib, who you're trying to kill. This is one of those things where the game doesn't leave you with another choice. The hunter is stuck and has to kill an infant child to further achieve his goals. He is completely void of any sympathy. Now, I don't actually think someone in Fromsoftware heard Deathconsciousness and based story bits off of that album for Bloodborne. They both capture a similar nihilistic, eerie, and tragic aesthetic, and it's honestly amazing. I love Bloodborne and I love Deathconsciousness, and I'm forever grateful that I have ears to experience music and I have eyes and fingers to experience video games. I think that having these senses is something people really take for granted. But yeah, Bloodborne is totally based on Deathconsciousness. Bye!